Well, the idea of being not dependent on outside food sources that's been with me for a very long time.
Nature's so intelligent, nature knows right. And really it's just taking sign and note of it. Why do you find foraging for your own to be beneficial? And what do you do with them when you find them? And basically every 2 weeks onward, new things start coming out. Like right now we're approaching fiddlehead season. Then soon we're gonna have asparagus season, morel mushrooms, and it just keeps going all the way through up to the winter.
See these things?
Like these, what is that?
It's a hand. They're like meant to do millions of little things that most people don't do. Sometimes the least amount of what somebody does when it comes to contact with food, they're in their car, they go through a drive-through, it's picking up food that's already wrapped.
Right.
And they eat it.
Sometimes they rip open the little ketchups. And we'll give them some credit. We're wild leek foraging. We're doing a national sport that's deep in our DNA and all of our DNAs, which is wild foraging for our own food, getting our hands dirty.
I think we're doing what humans were meant to be doing.
So this is something Angelo's a pro at. He's been doing it for about 7 years now. This is my first season taking this more seriously and actually going in wild foraging for this specific food. We're surrounded by it right now. Some are in a mature state we want to harvest and some are a little bit young, but we're at the really tail end of the season here on May 20th in Canada. And it's exciting as we're out here. We got pitchforks, we got little scraper things to pull them out of the ground. We're capturing the whole thing, but we're doing it sustainably, making sure we forage and leave lots for the forest. As if you could only see what we're seeing right now, there ain't no shortage. There's plenty of wild wood leeks for everyone out here. Now, of course, if you're in Quebec, it's a different rule, but we're in Ontario, so different gameplay. So we're going to talk a little bit about wild wood leeks, why we're into this, why you might want to actually go foraging for this yourself. If you're watching this now, maybe a little bit late in the season, or maybe you're watching it and it's the perfect time. But it comes out usually early spring, all the way through to the mid part of spring. And it's one of the very first medicinal herbs or culinary herbs that actually comes out into the woods. So it's exciting to find it because it's the marker of the season. And basically every 2 weeks onward, new things start coming out. Like right now we're approaching fiddlehead season. Then soon we're gonna have asparagus season, morel mushrooms, chanterelle, and it just keeps going all the way through up to the winter. So the wild wood leek is like the introduction to the foraging for the year. Why do you wild forage wood leeks, Angelo? What's in it for you? Why do you like it? Why do you wild forage wood leeks, Angelo? What's in it for you? Why do you like it? What do you do with these things?
Well, we're all got a mouth, which we need to feed. We need to feed that belly. That's the first reason. The second reason is just it's part of our nature to go out and into nature and be a part of the nature, which we happen to separate ourselves from. So taking a walk and stumbling across, discovering a new batch or new patch of leeks is probably the more exciting part of the whole foraging aspect, is that you're not going back to the same spots. And there's that, it's one of those rules that you should live by, is just like, walk where you've never walked before.
Yeah, take a new path.
Yeah, exactly. So we're fortunate to live in an area where we're surrounded by forests, that you can walk into some of them. We're fortunate that we have a little bit by where we live. Otherwise you can head up north, especially if you want to capture the different stages of the harvest. So if you want to keep getting some fresh leeks, you can keep going further north if you have that option. This is the first, like you were saying, this is the first sign of spring. There's in the forest, you do not see any green. This is the first green that you see.
It's the first leaf coming up.
It can be mistaken with the trout lily, which is almost simultaneous when they pop up. And it looks somewhat similar, and they're a little more spotted and they remain smaller. But this is when you know that it's time to eat, and it's something that innately that Mother Nature provides for you at that time is when we should be eating it.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah,
there's something I learned a few years ago is like citrus fruit, for example,
Yeah.
we eat more citrus in the summer
Yeah.
than we do in the winter.
Right.
And when is citrus fruit? You were in Calabria.
Yeah.
Citrus fruit is basically between October and March.
That's right. Yeah.
That's when flu season's around.
I wonder why.
Citrus fruit should be consumed in high quantities at that time
High
of the year.
vitamin C and all the other antioxidant strains. Nature's so intelligent. Nature knows right. No, nature has created the perfect system for us to thrive in. And really, it's just taking sign and note of it.
Like, it's just
Probably not,
taken
yeah.
for granted. That's like, you go to school and you're like, oh, today's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What the fuck do those dates, like, what do those words mean? As you
Yeah.
know, like, words have frequency and energy to them. So we're saying something that means something, but
I was just thinking the other day when we went through that drive in Calabria, when I first got in the car with you, it was like nighttime. When we were talking about why the Julius Caesar month, Augusta, like August, like these made up 2 extra months. And I was talking to my other mentor about that the other day. We were trying to figure it out. I was like, that was such a good talk you and I had when we were driving. We were talking about how this stuff works, who gets to assign whether there's 7 days versus 5 or 20 in a week. I was like, that's such an interesting conversation, man. Like, everyone has curiosity of why did that get established that it's that many days?
well, do they though? Do people have that curiosity? Like, it's just
Probably not,
taken
yeah.
for granted. That's like, you go to school and you're like, oh, today's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What the fuck do those like, what do those words mean? As you
Yeah.
know, like, words have frequency and energy to them. So we're saying something that means something, but, and then people can look at it, well, it's just a name. There's no significance behind it, which is fucking bullshit. Like, how can it not have some sort of meaning?
That's so valuable. Like, that is, dude, that's like literally the question. People are living months of their lives and not even asking, like, what month am I in? Did someone just make it up because they're like a greedy Greek lord or Roman emperor? Like, where did this come from? And what would happen if they were eliminated? It's a dog coming flying up the trail. Because my mentor was saying, okay, well, like, that's interesting. What would we do if we actually deleted 2 months? Like, what would that look like? Would the year be like 300 days? 320 days? Hey, buddy.
Well, it was,
What was it before? You know?
it was 10.
It was 10 months before at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
That's
Well,
a trip.
well, you have settembre,
Right.
7, ottobre, 8,
Right.
November, 9, Dicembre, 10. December is the 12th month and not the, hello.
Right. Hi there.
It was 7, 8, 9, 10. The months of the last months there, 4 months, September, October, November, December, are numbers.
Right.
7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
And then Julius added his in July, right in the
Okay.
summer, because that's when all these sacred rituals and festivals are, right?
Right.
Even all the like they all changed their birthdays to be in the summer, even though they weren't born in the summer.
Because they wanted it to be part of the festival times.
Yeah, when people are out doing things and capturing their energy and attention, and
So you're telling me right now that actually it's always been 10 months originally. They changed their birthdays. So astrologically, they're just like, okay, my birthday's actually in the summer, which I've always thought of doing, by the way, with my birthday being in February. I've always thought it'd be sick to just like say my birthday's actually in August.
yeah, the seasons would spread out over 10 months instead of 12.
That's it, yeah. Which I guess still makes sense. It's not like the seasons are dramatically, like them adding 2 is okay. Them adding 7 wouldn't make sense. If you think about always buying just white onion, purple onion, always just back and forth between those two and cooking with only those, how individualized is that? Won't you want more complexity added to it? And the beautiful thing is, like, when this food is coming up, this is the perfect time to actually come and get some. And the beautiful thing is too, while you're wild foraging, is you can wipe a little bit off of your wild wood leek and you can come and take a bite of it. It's got this delicious, spicy, fragrant onion but garlic mix with salt and pepper. It's almost like it's a done food for you. So you can wild forage, eat it. And the nice thing about wild wood leeks is they're very forager friendly for a newbie. Someone who's just starting on their journey of wild foraging. Wood leek is like such an easy win because there really is, as Angelo's saying, not many mistakes you can make, especially as the season goes on. It gets a little bit... Yeah, during this time of year, I find myself buying a lot less onion and garlic at the store because why would you, right? When you can come and get your own wild forage food. So my family has been cooking with the wild wood leek, and we use the whole thing. The beautiful thing, too, again, about the wild wood leek is it's easy to find. It replaces an item that you're normally buying at the store all the time. If you think about always buying just white onion, purple onion, always just back and forth between those two and cooking with only those, how individualized is that? Won't you want more complexity added to it during this period of time in the spring? Why buy onions and all those other things when you actually get this wild food, which you can just cut and put in the place of onions in your normal dishes or garlic, or add it alongside? And you know, when you're eating it wild too, you're also getting the B12, which we were talking about. The soil provides B12, and that actually provides yourself probiotics and a necessary function that people don't oftentimes get in their diet. So the bulb is where a lot of the medicinal element is. The bulb is going to have the sulfur, that mineral, the sulfur. Sulfur is extremely detoxifying and empirical to get it into your bloodstream because it purifies the blood. Your blood is like your engine oil. And if your engine oil has gone too long in your car, you know your engine could blow. Well, it's the same thing with your blood. If your blood is not purified and the toxins and parasites and different dangerous chemicals that are found in the bloodstream are not removed, it ends up causing your engine to not function properly, your body. So the thing is, wild wood leek, you're getting such a direct dose of this sulfur, the mineral, in a proportion that is nature intended with all the other elements and aspects that are in the wood leek. And you know, when you're eating it wild too, you're also getting the B12, which we were talking about. The soil provides B12, and that actually provides yourself probiotics and a necessary function that people don't oftentimes get in their diet. So it's like supplementing so many different things, just taking a bite of a wild food.
That's why kids are meant to play outside and get their hands dirty. That's
right.
This is the first thing that builds the immune system. I would think that it also maintains the immune system.
It's the ultimate build a microbiome, is when you actually allow yourself to deal with some of the things that might normally get you sick. You put it in very small doses in your body by touching things and getting dirty. Maybe a little dirt gets in your cut, or you eat something and it has a little dirt in it. You take on the wildness of nature and it builds you up. Just picture, as an idea, wild blueberries versus organic blueberries. Now, both are amazing, but when you eat an organic blueberry, how much bigger is that blueberry? It's a lot bigger through farming techniques and hybridization over years of supplementing and picking the best plant to continue, or best fruit to continue growing over and over again. When you eat a wild blueberry, they're a lot smaller, but one wild blueberry I've always found is like 5 organic blueberries. The amount of punch you get flavor-wise, like the sour and bitter tones.
And the nutrients. You think of what eats wild berries in the wild.
Giant bears.
Those guys aren't small, and how do they get so big?
Yeah. It's not just salmon, everyone. It's not just other critters that it finds along the way. It's the berries and the herbs and the plants along the way. Beautiful thing, everyone, too, with the wild wood leek that's so spectacular is not just for culinary purposes. Medicinally, what it's going to provide the body is a plethora of different effects. So I mentioned a second ago about it being rich in sulfur. Now, that's the reason why you do want to harvest the bulb, because the bulb contains the highest dose of the sulfur content, the mineral sulfur. The greens have a lot of amazing, more heat-sensitive chemicals that are in it. It's more the antioxidants you might consider. But the bulb is going to have the deep, rich mineral content. That's the life force energy of the plant itself. And it is sustainable still. You don't have to worry because, as I mentioned, we're surrounded by probably 20,000 leeks in different variety of spaces. We're only taking a 0.03% probably right now in our basket. So we don't harvest that many. That's the key. And you only take a little bit from each batch. Like, there's a batch in front of us right here. We're not going to take every leek from this little batch. We're only going to take, 10 or 15 of 150 batch. So that's the key, is it's very sustainable done that way. That's why we have the pitchfork and the tools to pull it up so we can get to the bulb. Now, once you eat the bulb, you're releasing that sulfur into your body. That sulfur, what it then does is help to purify the bloodstream. As I mentioned, the engine oil. You got to change the oil. You can change the oil every time you eat. An amazing other thing we love is the parasite killing aspects of it. You can feel this from the second you put a leek in your mouth and start chewing it. It activates some type of receptor that feels like this burn sensation is about to go through your body. And parasites are selectively known to not like garlic or onion. Now, you can imagine, as we said with the wild blueberry to the organic blueberry, when you have sulfur and you have the rich content that's within a leek in the wild form, imagine if an organic blueberry, it takes 5 to match the same flavor and medicinal potency as a one wild blueberry. Imagine how strong one wild wood leek is compared to a whole onion. It can be very potent, just a small portion. So you can start to kill off the parasites that are sapping the nutrients out of your body, sapping your energy, causing you to have strange food cravings, the things you know you shouldn't be eating that cause you to gain weight. This starts to kill these parasites off, replenishes the bloodstream, and provides a very powerful nutrient that helps you with detoxification.
Something that we also discussed is that going out into nature and foraging and using these intricate tools that are attached to our arms, there's all these receptors there, and they're feeling the earth, they're feeling the leek, they're pulling, you're sending senses to your mind, going, all right, this guy's actually doing what I remember doing, you know.
In my DNA.
That's right. Yeah. It's there.
Imagine the hormone release too of wild foraging, like how our ancestors would feel, how your ancestors would feel literally finding wild food. Like,
it was the greatest reward, because it was like, we get to eat.
We get to eat.
See these things?
Like these, what is that?
It's a hand.
I like that. Yeah, I was like looking at the ring. I'm like, I'm tricked by the ring. What am I looking at? Yeah.
Well, they're like meant to do millions of little things that most people don't do. Sometimes the least amount of what somebody does when it comes to contact with food, they're in their car.
Seriously. What's your whole, like, how long have you been foraging wild leeks for?
It hasn't been that long that I've actually been, I guess, aware that I should be doing it. It's something that we've always lived in the country and we've done it, but I consciously, or just going out and actually doing it, going, I really love this. This is something I want to be doing every day. So it's only been like 6 or 7 years. And then it's been growing every year and just learning more about it. And
right.
The thing is, because of where we live, they've been here. I've lived in this area for 36 years or whatever it is. That
longer than I've been on the planet.
And I've been going to, I thought we were the same age.
I'm 173, but I don't let on all the time.
There's gonna be a lot of age jokes in these vlogs, Angelo. You better get ready.
Yeah, we're gonna come at you. What do you like leeks for? Why do you like foraging? Why do you find foraging for your own to be beneficial? And what do you do with them when you find them?
Well, the idea of being, not dependent on outside food sources that's been with me for a very long time.
Right.
And maybe just growing up with, living on a hobby farm and always visiting other farms. It's just like, somewhere deep down, it's just like, this needs to be a part of your life.
Right.
For many reasons. And at a younger age, I was able to tell the difference of when we had our vegetables or our meat versus what you could get in a restaurant. And it didn't happen often because our parents never even took us out to restaurants. We never ate out. They never took us to McDonald's. Like the first time I had McDonald's, I was in high school. And then I was on that for 4 years. And then as soon as high school was over, I was like, yeah, this doesn't feel right. But, see these things?
It's like these, what is that?
It's a hand.
I like that. Yeah, I was like looking at the ring. I'm like, I'm tricked by the ring. What am I looking at? Yeah.
Well, they're like meant to do millions of little things that most people don't do. Sometimes the least amount of what somebody does when it comes to contact with food, they're in their car, they go through a drive-through, it's picking up food that's already wrapped.
Right.
And they eat it.
Sometimes they rip open the little ketchups, and we'll give them some credit.
So there's not one single point throughout the growing or the production or the preparing, and then they're actually eating it.
Right.
Their hands, their fingers have never been able to touch the food.
Right.
And I don't know I'm sure there's some scientific information about what happens when you touch your food. Like I forget how many receptors are on the tip of your fingers, but
With
they're
10,000 between your fingertip movements and your mind. So imagine just the sensitivity neurons that would be firing just from feeling something, like a wild berry if you're picking it, or like, you know, taking a knife and chopping something and moving it, and the mass energy that you're moving around.
They'll make you better on your computer if you spend some time in the woods.
Yeah, definitely. The feeling of like picking up something and moving it and finding it and pulling it out of the dirt and getting that dirt in your hands. There's definitely that energy that farmers understand when they plant things, but it's another level when you wild forage, though. Still, it's another level I found.
Oh.
'Cause I've worked on the farm with my grandpa, and I found when I help him plant a garden or we do any of those things with those heirloom tomatoes, it's a beautiful experience, and I love that. There's definitely a magic to that. But I've always personally liked it a little bit more, going out into the woods, having to rely on your senses, your eyesight, your trust, and being able to find something and identify it and clearly know what it is and know how the size of it, the age of it, all the little aspects of it.
It's definitely sending you information of like your brain, your biome, your gut biome of like, okay, this guy's touching this right now. We're going to send in these sort of enzymes and this into your belly because in about an hour or 2 hours, this guy's probably going to be eating this stuff. So they're just, the whole body is sort of
Tingling for it. It's ready. It's preparing. It's like your glands in your mouth, the sebaceous glands, actually forming mucus and forming saliva to be able to be ready for that meal you're about to eat. And you don't get that, like you're saying, with a hamburger that you just picked up at the drive-thru. You unwrapped it, and suddenly you're about to eat it. It's like you get all of 3 seconds to feel it. It's on a very deep, advanced level, but kind of basic at the same time. You can always see this light that shows up in their eye that maybe hasn't been there for many years, and this happiness of being a kid again and being in the soil and picking things up. And a second ago, I just picked up a big pile and there was an earthworm on it. So this really does tap into a very primitive sense that is in all of us. And every time people come mushroom hunting with us on these retreats, you can always see this light that shows up in their eye that maybe hasn't been there for many years, and this happiness of being a kid again and being in the soil and picking things up. And a second ago, I just picked up a big pile and there was an earthworm on it. And I was like, looking at this earthworm. And when in my life do I normally get to connect with this little tiny critter that creates the microbiome of the soil? And I was just staring at it, and I just felt such a pulse of happiness looking at this wild earthworm that I pulled up. I didn't eat him, although I dared Angelo to. I just put him back, but it was like an appreciation moment that's really deep and powerful for someone who normally, myself, is, you know, I'm on my MacBook, I'm working, I'm on my phone, I'm driving different places. It slows you down when you wild forage. That's the beauty of it.
many of times where you can just go out and expect to. I came out and I was like, I'm gonna only pick a handful of leeks, and then I got to head back because I got so many other things to do.
Yeah.
Hours later, and it's just because we belong here.
Yeah.
This is, you know, maybe even barefoot.
That's it, 100%. Do you feel right now as well, Angelo, in your body, that, you know, as we're recording this video, we're sharing this information, we're picking some wood leeks, I'm willing to go to literally, it's so dark that we would have trouble getting out. That's from going from a moment where, you know, sometimes it's resistance that you feel in your body to go mow the lawn or do some outdoor laborious activity you don't feel like doing. Well, this is such an interesting phenomena that I've always found and noticed with others too, with wild foraging, that at first it feels like, oh, okay, I got to do some work, you know, put the pitchfork in, get my ball, get my leek and put it in the basket. And suddenly you're like, I don't want to leave. This is like so fun and so friendly to be in this environment of the nature and the trees and the air and the aura coming from all the trees around us. It becomes just such a beautiful experience that it's so enjoyable you don't want to leave it.
And I would say, especially during times where people are stressed,
Yeah.
and perhaps there's viruses that are going around, this is probably the first place you should run to
Yeah.
and get in and actually hug a tree and get grounded and observe nature.
Yeah.
And just learn from it. You know, this is how we humans learned. It was just observing with our eyes and our hands and letting life flourish. And we are a part of this grandiose ecosystem that I'm more than happy to be surrounded by, and that I have the opportunity to get into it. And I just feel for those people that are, you know, the condo life, and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I couldn't do it, but man, like, people got to realize you definitely have to get out and reconnect with yourself.
Yeah.
This is it.
Just like building your bank account, building your body, this is building your spiritual bank account. The feeling of coming wild foraging, it's very, very deeply nourishing in a way that's almost inexplicable to come wild foraging. And the best part too is you get to go home with something that's a treasure from the forest. Angelo, what do you like to do with your wild wood leeks? Like, what's your favorite things to do with it? How do you cook it? How do you eat it? Angelo, what do you like to do with your wild wood leeks? Like, what's your favorite things to do with it? How do you cook it? How do you eat it?
The majority of it would be raw, although depending on how much you cook, then it's endless. And like we've discussed, anywhere you would think of putting garlic or onion.
Yeah. You would chop it the same way, like the bulb. Like, you clean the bulb, obviously, with the dirt when you get home. Actually, let's start from the beginning, too. I think it's important to notice a couple little hacks. When you're actually foraging your wood leeks, an important thing to do is, I realize, is keep the dirt on the wood leek. I was at first cleaning it off with a cloth, which can be nice and pretty in the basket, but the thing is, when you actually keep the dirt on, you can put these into a vase that you would normally put flowers into with a little bit of spring water, and these will actually stay many days longer than they normally would, because they wilt pretty quick. I found, like 2 to 3 days they start wilting.
Yeah, yeah, just definitely the more moisture content and, you know, keeping to its natural habitat will prolong the life of these guys. Keeping them in the refrigerator, I usually wrap them
Right.
in a bag just to seal in that moisture.
Yeah, keep it moist. And then when you're ready to cook it, you just clean off the dirt. That's at least what I do. And then I chop all the way up to the point when I hit the green, and I might slightly saute it with some of Sarafino's beautiful biodynamic olive oil, obviously. I would saute it just like I would an onion, but a little bit less time than I even would with an onion, because I actually want to keep the flavor. And then I'd cook like let's say my pasta, like I'm going to put my red sauce now, or any other meal, any type of recipe, a rice recipe, a Thai recipe, any type of soup you're going to make. I'm doing a stew right now at the house. This is what I have in there as the main portion for onions. And I like to keep the greens for later, I've noticed, as more of an ending off, like the last couple minutes when they're cooking, because it releases this nice fragrance and this flavor that I don't want to overcook. Do you find the same, or do you do things a little bit different with the cooking?
I'm a big fan of raw and eating it raw.
Like in salads and such.
Even if it's in a soup,
Yeah.
I'll chop up, I'll use the actual leek in the actual cooking of the soup as an ingredient.
Oh, as well as after.
But as well as a garnish, yeah.
Do you use the bulb as a garnish too, or just the green? Both. It's a madman.
Switch it up.
Absolute
Switch it up. My style of cooking, I mean, I could never write a recipe book, because every time I cook, it's a new recipe.
Yeah.
And it's a new way, and the way I slice it, and
The time you cook it.
when you put it in, and is it later or is it after? Because it's like it's an ongoing experiment.
Yeah, it's less brain surgery and more Picasso art. Like, you're having fun, you're creating it each time.
Well said. Time for an oil change, and once you get that oil change, you want to soup it up with some wild leeks. Stay tuned while this guy leaks more information.
WikiLeaks.